Massive Xerion warship dropped out of hyperspace above Earth like a mountain falling from the sky. Admiral Zexkar stood on the bridge, his four arms crossed in satisfaction as he watched the blue planet rotate slowly beneath them. His scales gleamed under the ship's harsh lighting, and his reptilian eyes showed the cold calculation of a predator. "Target acquired, Admiral," his tactical officer hissed through sharp teeth. "The third planet appears to be inhabited by primitive bipeds. Our sensors detect basic nuclear technology and crude space exploration attempts." Zexkar's mandibles clicked in amusement. This was going to be easier than conquering the plant people of Verdania or the crystal beings of Silicron Prime. The Xerion Empire had swept across 17 star systems in the past century, adding world after world to their growing domain. Earth would be number 18. "Standard procedure," Zexkar commanded, settling into his command chair. "Deploy the intimidation fleet. Show these creatures the might of the Xerion Empire before we begin extraction operations." Within minutes, the sky above Earth darkened as hundreds of Xerion vessels materialized from hyperspace. Each ship was the size of a city, bristling with plasma cannons and gravitational disruptors. The fleet arranged itself in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming force that had made dozens of civilizations surrender without firing a single shot. On Earth's surface, chaos erupted. Emergency broadcasts flooded every communication channel as governments scrambled to understand what was happening. The ships were too large to hide, too numerous to ignore. Within hours, every human on the planet knew they were no longer alone in the universe. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the emergency command center beneath NORAD, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. As Earth's leading xenobiologist and part of the secret First Contact Protocol team, she had always hoped this moment would come differently, not with hundreds of warships blocking out the sun. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced, his voice tight with stress. "It's coming from the largest vessel. Universal translation protocols are somehow working. The signal is being broadcast on every frequency simultaneously." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Zexkar in all his terrifying glory. His voice boomed through speakers worldwide, reaching every radio, television, and communication device on the planet. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet," Zexkar began, his words somehow perfectly translated into every human language. "I am Admiral Zexkar of the Xerion Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You will surrender your weapons, your governments, and your resources. Resistance will result in the elimination of your species." Dr. Chen felt her blood run cold as Zexkar continued his ultimatum. "You have one of your planetary rotations to comply. Prepare your leaders for transport to our vessels, where they will sign the surrender documents. Any attempt to flee your world or contact other civilizations will be met with immediate destruction." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. But what Admiral Zexkar didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment longer than anyone could imagine. Deep beneath the surface of every continent, in facilities so classified that most world leaders didn't know they existed, humanity had been building something extraordinary. The project had started 40 years ago when the Arecibo Observatory detected the first signs of the Xerion fleet's approach. The signals had been faint, almost imperceptible, but Dr. Marcus Webb had recognized them for what they were: the electromagnetic signature of a massive fleet moving through space at near light speed. Dr. Webb, now an old man confined to a wheelchair in the deepest bunker on Earth, had spent 4 decades convincing world governments to unite in secret. The threat was too great for any single nation to face. Humanity's survival depended on unprecedented cooperation and the development of technology that seemed impossible. The Terra Defense Network was humanity's greatest secret and greatest achievement. While the world above continued with normal life, The best minds from every nation had worked together to create weapons and defenses that would have seemed like magic to previous generations. As Zexkar's ultimatum echoed across the planet, Dr. Webb activated the global communication system that connected every Terra defense facility. His weathered face appeared on screens in underground bunkers from Antarctica to Greenland. "This is it," he said simply. 40 years of preparation comes down to the next 24 hours. All stations, report readiness status. One by one, reports came in from around the globe. The quantum resonance cannons hidden beneath major cities were fully charged. The dimensional phase shields that could bend space-time around Earth were operational. The neural interface command network that would allow human consciousness to directly control the defense systems was online. But the crown jewel of human ingenuity was the consciousness upload protocol. Every human on Earth, without their knowledge, had been secretly scanned and backed up into quantum storage matrices. If the worst happened, humanity could be restored from these backups on any habitable world. Dr. Chen arrived at the main bunker as the final preparations were being made. She found Dr. Webb staring at a holographic display showing the Zerion fleet's positions. "Are we really going to fight them?" she asked. "Their technology is clearly centuries ahead of ours." Dr. Webb smiled, the expression both sad and determined. "Sarah, you've spent your career studying alien life, but you've never studied human nature under extreme pressure. We're not just going to fight them. We're going to show them why every species that has ever threatened humanity's extinction has lived to regret it." As Earth's day cycle neared its end, Admiral Zexkar prepared for the planet's inevitable surrender. In his experience, most species chose slavery over extinction. The humans would be no different. But in bunkers around the world, humanity was making final preparations for something the Zerion Empire had never encountered, a species that refused to kneel, backed by technology that could reshape reality itself. The timer on Dr. Brill Webb's console showed 18 hours until Zexkar's deadline. 18 hours for humanity to either surrender everything they had ever been or prove that Moral Zexkar stood on his bridge, watching the primitive planet below as the final hour of his ultimatum approached. In 17 previous conquests, no species had ever let the deadline pass. They all eventually saw reason when faced with the overwhelming might of the Zerion Empire. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving no surrender signals from the planet's surface. No leaders have been transported to our ships. They appear to be ignoring us." Zexkar's scales darkened with irritation. Perhaps these humans were more primitive than he had initially assessed. Maybe they didn't understand the gravity of their situation. "Open a channel," he commanded. "Let me make our position clearer." But before the transmission could begin, something impossible happened. Every sensor on every Zerion ship began screaming warnings simultaneously. "Admiral!" The tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. "Energy readings from the planet's surface are spiking beyond our instrument's ability to measure. I'm detecting massive power sources activating all across the planet." Dr. Webb's fingers pressed the activation key in the Terra defense bunker. Around the world, systems that had been dormant for decades roared to life. The quantum resonance cannons emerged from their hidden positions beneath major cities, their crystalline cores beginning to glow with barely contained energy. "All stations, this is Control," Dr. Webb announced across the global network. "Terra Defense Network is now active. Phase 1, Demonstration of Capability." In the Pacific Ocean, the water began to churn and bubble. A massive structure broke the surface, rising like a metal mountain from the depths. The oceanic defense platform had been built in secret over 3 decades, its quantum displacement engines allowing it to exist partially outside normal space-time. Admiral Zexkar watched in growing alarm as similar structures emerged from Earth's oceans, mountains, and even seemingly empty deserts. Each installation crackled with energy signatures his sensors couldn't properly analyze. "What? What are those?" he whispered. His answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth. Dr. Webb's face appeared on every screen in the Xerion fleet, his calm expression a stark contrast to the chaos erupting around him. "Admiral Zexkar of the Xerion Empire," Dr. Webb began, his voice steady and measured. "My name is Dr. Marcus Webb, Director of the Terra Defense Network. We have been monitoring your approach for 40 years. We know about your empire, your conquest methods, and your complete lack of respect for sentient life." Zexkar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Impossible. Our long-range scanners showed no advanced technology on this world," Dr. Webb smiled. "That's because we didn't want you to see it. Humanity learned long ago that the best weapon is one your enemy doesn't know exists. For 4 decades, every nation on Earth has contributed to a single project, making sure that when someone like you arrived, we would be ready." The quantum resonance cannons around the globe began to hum with increasing power. The sound was felt rather than heard, a vibration that seemed to reach into the very atoms of reality. "You made a mistake, Admiral," Dr. Webb continued. "You assumed that a species capable of spaceflight but not interstellar travel must be primitive. You failed to consider that we might have chosen to develop our technology in directions you never imagined." On the Xerion flagship, warning alarms began blaring. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, and several crew members collapsed as their inner ears struggled to cope with the dimensional distortions emanating from Earth. "Admiral," the science officer reported, his voice filled with terror, "the humans are generating localized space-time distortions. They're manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. This technology is impossible." But Dr. Webb wasn't finished with his demonstration. "Phase 2, he announced to the Terra Defense Network. "Show them what human ingenuity can accomplish when survival is at stake." The Antarctic Research Station, hidden beneath miles of ice, activated its dimensional phase generator. Reality around the Xerion fleet began to bend and twist. Ships that had been spread across Earth's orbit suddenly found themselves compressed into a space barely 1,000 kilometers wide, their formations disrupted by geometries that shouldn't exist. Dr. Chen, monitoring the operation from the command center, watched as the alien ships struggled to comprehend what was happening to them. "Marcus, their engines are failing. The dimensional compression is interfering with their hyperspace capabilities." "Good," Dr. Webb replied. "Now they know they can't run. Let's show them they can't hide either." The Neural Interface Command Network came online, allowing human operators to directly control the defense systems with the speed of thought. 12 operators, their minds linked to quantum computers, began to target individual Xerion vessels with precision that seemed supernatural. High above Earth, the first demonstration shot fired from the Tokyo quantum resonance cannon. The beam wasn't visible to the naked eye, but its effects were immediately apparent. The targeted Xerion cruiser didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped existing in normal space-time, phased into a dimension where matter couldn't maintain coherence. The ship reappeared 30 seconds later, completely intact, but with every electronic system fried and its crew unconscious. It drifted powerless through space. A ghost ship crewed by beings whose minds couldn't process what had happened to them. "What did you do?" Admiral Zexkar demanded, his voice now openly frightened. "We gave them a glimpse of the space between spaces," Dr. Webb explained calmly. "Your crew will recover in a few hours with no permanent damage. Consider it a warning shot." But Zexkar's pride overcame his fear. The Xerion Empire had never retreated from a primitive world. "You think your tricks will save you? We have enough firepower to turn your planet into molten slag." "Feel free to try," Dr. Webb said, his tone almost conversational. "But first, let me show you something." The global defense network shifted into Phase 3. Around Earth, massive energy barriers materialized, each one generating a field that could deflect anything from plasma bolts to gravitational weapons. But these weren't just shields. They were reflectors, designed to turn an enemy's power against them. "Fire everything!" Zexkar commanded his fleet. "Show these humans the price of defying the Empire." Hundreds of plasma cannons and particle beam weapons opened fire simultaneously. The space around Earth lit up like a star as enough destructive energy to crack a moon. Admiral Zexkar stared at the tactical display showing his devastated fleet. In less than an hour, the humans had reduced the mighty Zarion invasion force to a collection of damaged ships barely holding position above their planet. But his pride wouldn't let him admit defeat. "Impossible!" he hissed through clenched mandibles. "No primitive world possesses such technology. This must be some kind of trick, an illusion created by their crude computer systems." Dr. Webb's image on the communication screen seemed to read his thoughts. "You're thinking this can't be real, aren't you, Admiral? You're wondering how a species that hasn't even colonized its own solar system could possibly match the technology of a galactic empire." Zexkar's silence confirmed the assessment. "The answer is simple," Dr. Webb continued. "You conquered 17 worlds by being stronger than them. But humanity has never been the strongest species on our own planet. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more willing to work together when faced with extinction." In the Terra Defense Command Center, Dr. Chen monitored the global network as power levels reached critical thresholds. "Marcus, the quantum resonance cannons are at full charge. If we fire all of them simultaneously, the energy release will be visible from neighboring star systems." "I know," Dr. Webb replied grimly. "But Admiral Zexkar needs to understand exactly what he's dealing with before he makes his final decision." Above Earth, Zexkar was indeed considering his options. His tactical officer, nursing a broken arm from the console feedback during the reflected attack, provided a damage report that made his heart sink. "Admiral, we've lost 60% of our offensive capability. 43 ships are too damaged to fight, and another 21 have lost life support. The humans' defensive systems are unlike anything in our databases. They're not just blocking our attacks, they're turning our own weapons against us." But Zexkar's communications officer interrupted with alarming news. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups all across the planet. The power signatures they're beyond our ability to measure accurately. But preliminary estimates suggest they could destroy our entire fleet several times over." Dr. Webb's voice echoed across all Zarian ships simultaneously. "Admiral, you have one final chance to withdraw peacefully. In 60 seconds, we will demonstrate the full power of the Terra Defense Network. What happens after that depends entirely on your next decision." The countdown began, displayed in holographic numbers above every Zarian vessel. As the seconds ticked away, Zexkar watched energy readings spike across his instruments. Every human defense installation was charging to maximum power, creating energy fields that distorted space itself. 30 seconds, Dr. Webb announced. "I want to be clear about something, Admiral. We don't want to destroy your fleet. Despite your intentions toward our world, we take no pleasure in killing sentient beings, but we will not allow Earth to be enslaved." Zexkar's first officer, a scarred veteran of a dozen campaigns, leaned close to whisper urgently. "Admiral, our long-range scanners are detecting something impossible. These humans aren't just powering weapons. They're preparing to open artificial wormholes. If they can manipulate space-time to that degree—" 10 seconds! Dr. Webb's countdown continued relentlessly. With 5 seconds remaining, Admiral Zexkar finally broke. "Wait! We withdraw our claim on this world." But Dr. Webb's voice was implacable. "Too late for half measures, Admiral. You need to see what you almost faced." The countdown reached 0, and hell opened above Earth. Every quantum resonance cannon fired simultaneously, but not at the Zerion fleet. Instead, their combined energy tore open dozens of artificial wormholes in space around Earth. Through these rifts in reality, Zexkar and his crew could see other star systems, distant galaxies, and the writhing chaos of hyperspace itself. But the demonstration wasn't over. Through the largest wormhole, something emerged that made Zexkar's blood freeze in his veins. A massive structure, easily the size of a small moon, drifted through the portal. Its surface bristled with weapons that made the Zerion Empire's technology look like primitive clubs. That, Dr. Webb explained calmly, is the Prometheus station. We built it in the space between dimensions over the past 20 years. Its weapons are powered by controlled black holes and can restructure matter at the subatomic level. We have 12 more just like it, positioned at strategic points throughout hyperspace. Dr. Chen watched the alien fleet's sensor readings with satisfaction. Marcus, their ship's computers are trying to analyze the Prometheus station. The energy readings are causing system overloads across their entire fleet. Admiral Zexkar could barely speak. How is this possible? You don't have interstellar travel. We don't need it, Dr. Webb replied. We learned to fold space instead of traveling through it. While your empire was conquering worlds the slow way, ship by ship, we were building a network that can project power anywhere in the galaxy instantly. The wormholes began to close, but not before several more structures appeared briefly through different portals. Each one was unique in design, but obviously powerful beyond comprehension. The message was clear. Humanity had been busy for 40 years, and this was only a fraction of what they had accomplished. As the last portal sealed, Admiral Zexkar found himself facing a choice that no Zerion commander had ever confronted. His enemy wasn't just powerful. They were so far beyond his understanding that continuing the fight would be suicide. What do you want from us? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We want you to leave our system and never return, Dr. Webb said firmly. But more than that, we want you to carry a message back to your empire. Dr. Webb's image was replaced by a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked inhabited worlds, with the Zerion Empire's territory highlighted in red. Earth appeared as a single blue dot at the edge of known space. Tell your emperor that humanity claims no territory beyond our own solar system, Dr. Webb continued. We have no desire to conquer other worlds or build an empire, but we also will not tolerate threats to Earth or its people. Any species that approaches our world with peaceful intentions will be welcomed. Any that come with conquest in mind will face the consequences. The holographic display zoomed in to show the 17 worlds the Zerion Empire had conquered. We know about the species you've enslaved, Admiral. We know about their suffering under your rule. Consider this a warning. If the Zerion Empire continues its campaigns of conquest, humanity will intervene. Admiral Zexkar's mandibles clicked nervously. You would declare war on the entire empire. We would declare war on injustice, Dr. Webb corrected. The choice is yours. Become a civilization that explores and trades rather than conquers and enslaves, or discover what happens when humanity decides a threat must be eliminated permanently. As if to emphasize the point, the space around Earth shimmered as the phase barriers reconfigured themselves into an intricate pattern. For a few moments, the Zerion fleet found themselves inside a complex geometric structure made of pure energy, trapped in a cage of controlled lightning that could have incinerated them instantly. Then the barriers faded, and Admiral Zexkar realized he had been released as a gesture of mercy. Your hyperspace engines have been repaired, Dr. Webb announced. You have 1 hour to leave our solar system. If you're still here when that time expires, we'll assume you've chosen to test our resolve. Admiral Zexkar needed no further encouragement. All ships, prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. Set course for the home system, maximum speed. As the battered Xerian fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. Webb allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The immediate threat was over, but he knew this was only the beginning. Dr. Chen joined him in the command center as the global defense network powered down to standby mode. What do you think will happen when he reports back to his empire? Dr. Webb smiled grimly. Either they'll heed our warning and change their ways, or they'll send a much larger fleet to test our defenses. Either way, humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. 6 months later, reports reached Earth through long-range sensors that the Xerian Empire had suddenly ceased all conquest operations. The 17 enslaved worlds had been granted independence, and Xerian fleets had withdrawn to their original territory. Admiral Zexkar's report had spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. The story of a single world that had faced down an entire empire and won became legend among spacefaring species. Trade delegations began arriving at Earth, seeking to establish peaceful relations with the mysterious humans who commanded weapons that could bend reality itself. But in the deepest bunkers of the Terra Defense Network, Dr. Webb and his team continued their work. They knew that somewhere in the vast galaxy other threats existed, other empires that might not be as easily deterred as the Xerians. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most effective way possible. Not as conquerors or supplicants, but as protectors of the innocent and enemies of tyranny. The age of Earth's isolation was over, and the age of humanity's guardianship had begun. The galaxy would never be the same, accused on the blue planet below, but the attacks never reached Earth's surface. The phase barriers caught every shot, contained the energy, and reflected it back at the attacking ships with twice the original power. The Xerian fleet found themselves under bombardment from their own weapons, amplified beyond their shield's ability to absorb. Ship after ship went dark as their own reflected fire overwhelmed their defenses. Emergency bulkheads sealed as hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. The proud Xerian formation dissolved into chaos as damaged vessels collided with their neighbors. Dr. Webb watched the pandemonium with grim satisfaction. Admiral, in the 40 years we've been preparing for your arrival, we've studied every military engagement in your empire's history. We know how you fight, how you think, and how you can be defeated. Your tactics work against species that develop technology linearly, building bigger weapons and stronger shields, but humanity doesn't think linearly. Admiral Zexkar's bridge was now barely functional, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows on smoke-filled air. Half his crew was injured, and the ships around him were in similar condition. "What do you want?" he gasped, finally understanding that his fleet was completely outmatched. "We want you to leave," Dr. Webb replied simply. "We want you to return to your empire and tell them that Earth is protected. Tell them that humanity chooses its own destiny." "And if we refuse?" Dr. Webb's expression became deadly serious. "Then we move to Phase 4, and you discover what happens when a species that has survived ice ages, plague, world wars, and nuclear weapons decides that something absolutely must be destroyed." The threat hung in the air like a physical presence. Around Earth, the quantum resonance cannons began charging for a full power salvo, their energy signatures climbing beyond anything the Xerion sensors had ever detected. Admiral Zexkar realized he was facing a choice: retreat with the battered remnants of his fleet, or push forward and risk total annihilation against an enemy that fought with weapons pulled from the fundamental forces of reality itself. For the first time in the Xerian Empire's history, an invasion force faced an enemy that was more dangerous than they were, as some species were too dangerous to enslave. As night fell across Earth's surface, millions of humans looked up at the alien ships blocking out the stars, not knowing that beneath their feet, Their species was about to unleash forces that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The Xerion Empire had conquered 17 worlds by overwhelming force and fear. They had never faced a species that had spent 40 years preparing to fight gods and win. Dr. Webb's fingers hovered over the activation key for the Terra Defense Network. In a few hours, Admiral Zexkar would learn that humanity had one response to ultimatums from would-be conquerors. No.